So thank you everybody for joining. I'm very, very pleased that I can do that with you tonight because I already had a call with Boris and then with Boris in Brooklyn about Kosmik and Fission and how we need to decentralize the web and how a lot of stuff could be redone very nicely in the 21st century to finally have the hypertext that Douglas Engelbart and Ted Nelson wanted so many years ago. Just a few words about myself. I was a philosophy student about a few years ago. I did a master in philosophy. I was working on computer history. That was my main hobby and passion, and it still is. And at some point in time, I wanted to see how authors react to the tools they use and how hypertext could enhance thinking in systems like philosophy. And so I wanted to create an app that would be kind of a modern day OpenDoc or HyperCard. I wanted it to work on iPad. I wanted it to be very private and to host data offline first, encrypted, to be very respectful of user privacy, especially if you consider that all the wave of apps that we have for the few last years, like Notion, Roam Research, even Evernote and others, if you consider those apps and you agree that they are going to become your second brain, you really need to have a very strong encryption and a very strong standard of encryption because people are going to put their thoughts into your app. And so I had this idea of a zooming user interface that would work with blocks that you could move around, images, web pages, 3D objects, videos, text notes that could replace your desktop. That was kind of the main point of focus when we started designing Kosmik. We were like, how can we finally get rid of the desktop metaphor? It's been with us for more than 40 years. It was never meant to scale to this present day. It should have been replaced many, many years ago. Every attempt failed. Maybe we can propose something. And we started with the iPad because for us, the iPad OS is kind of a twisted desktop metaphor. So it's the worst of both worlds because you have apps. Every app hosts its own files. And if you want to combine files between apps, it's very tedious. But the iPad is such a great device that it should be the first playground for those new concepts. So we started designing a prototype. I met my CTO, Christophe Van de Put, who is an Apple alumni. He worked at Apple R&D for 12 years. And after that, on numerous technology, he's a very brilliant man, and I'm very happy to work with him. And so we did that prototype, and we said, okay, we need to define what we want to do with that product. And we knew that we wanted to create something that could help researchers, that could help intellectuals, that could help people working in humanities, in liberal arts, that could make collaboration more seamless and streamlined. And so we said, okay, there are 3 pillars to realize that vision. First, we need to do away with the hierarchy, with the folders. So we are going to go with that zooming user interface and that infinite canvas where you can just drag and drop anything you want. Then we are going to add, links, transclusion links. We are going to allow user to reference objects in different boards because we need them to be updated. We need to be able to have a very strong quoting mechanism. And third, we are going to make all of that decentralized. And we knew that we wanted to have the comfort of a software as a service where you just kind of, type your username, type your password, and boom, you are logged in. But we also knew that we wanted people to be able to, unplug themselves from the network if they wanted to. And so we had those 3 pillars. We raised a first seed round. We got back to work, and we finally coded the whole database. And so to achieve that vision, we needed technology. And the only technology that would allow us to build that database that would allow transclusion, that would allow a very powerful real-time zooming user interface with very complex multimedia objects was IPFS. And so Christophe was, I think, one of the first people to take IPFS and especially the Go implementation and to cross-compile it for mobile and especially for iOS and to make it run on the iPad. When we got that running, we developed a database that could talk with IPFS to host the file. It was named Bang and is still what we use today. And on top of Bang, we created the Kosmik UI. It was a very long road. It took us almost a year to have a properly working iPad app. Then Christophe said, okay, we need to have a multi-platform version of this application if we want to be really complete. And so we ported it to the Mac with Catalyst, and we created another code base for the web, which is currently in development. We have a progressive web app that should be launched alongside our, what we call the publish release, because Kosmik, I'm going to show it to you in a few seconds, has three modes to manage documents. You have the private mode, where you are just working on your canvas privately, drag and dropping objects, taking notes, thinking for yourself. Then you have the shared mode, which is the multiplayer collaboration, kind of a la Figma, that we are still working on, and that should be released by the end of the summer. And we have what we call the publish mode, which is a mode where we create a link for your canvas or a precise object on your canvas, and you can just share that link with anybody, and the object will be displayed either in the native application, if we can find it on the drive of the device you open the link onto, or open directly into an internet navigator. And we hope to make Kosmik the best place to create a digital garden. So that's kind of where we are at right now. I don't know if you have a question about the kind of the vision of or what we are trying to achieve, or if you want me to just go to the demo. But tell me if you need some precision on that. I'd be very happy to answer them.
Keep going. Mind's blown. Let's see what you got.
So I'm going to share my screen. So this is Kosmik on my Mac right now. As you see, it's a very classical, if you will, canvas, where you can zoom in, zoom out, pan. We have this little button on the lower right corner where you can just tap to be zoomed on top of all the content of the canvas to be able to find yourself in hyperspace. This is a universe I put together this afternoon for this demo, and I added a few files. So here I have 3 PDF, and we really worked hard on the PDF component because we know that people still do research on a lot of PDF papers. So as you see here, I have a button and I can read my PDF directly from the Zoom in user interface. But this is not very interesting. But what I can do on Kosmik is I can pin that PDF to the left side of my screen, and I'm going to have a full PDF reader with a lot of capabilities directly onto my board, and I can scroll around. I can bring up my create panel and, for example, take a note. So I can create a text block next to my PDF, and I can double tap and take notes about the PDF on the left, for example. Or what I can do is I can bring up the table of content of the PDF, and then if something catch my eye, I can just take the page, drag it out, and it's going to create an image of that page that I can play around with later on. And I can, of course, enlarge it, do a lot of stuff with it, and I can, for example, put a sticky note to remember that I need to read it or that I need to do something with it later on. So about live copy that I was speaking about earlier, live copy allows us to link content in Kosmik. So for example, if I do Command L on that, I'm going to have a new instance of the object. And Christophe will answer to your question later on, but in Kosmik, everything is a Kosmik object. So we have the data stored as an hash in IPFS, but everything in Bang is what we call a Kosmik object, which is kind of a ball, if you will, that contains the data. And it can be an image, it can be a movie, it can be anything. And when we create a live copy, we only create a new edge, a new link to that object, and we display it in the Zoom in user interface. So for example, if I tap on that text here and I choose a new highlight color, I want it to be highlighted in orange. When I save my modification, it's going to be linked, and all the instances of that object are going to react to that modification. What I can do in Kosmik is also take my stickers, we call them stickers, and put them in what we call the album. The album is kind of an object that works anywhere in Kosmik. It allows you to transport object from one point, from one universe, one canvas, to another, which allows you to put that object in another universe and link it with the live copy. So here on the canvas, I also have images that I can work with. So if I tap on them, I can apply filter, I can change their size, I can layout them, I can do anything I want. One of the other nice features of Kosmik is the way we support web pages. So here I have a web page, and as soon as I scroll, I have this search bar here that I can tap into, and it can allow me to search anything on Google or any research engine I wish to use. If I click on the pin button, it's going to do exactly as the PDF. It's going to load the page in that side panel. I can resize it. And then what I can do, and I can also do it directly from the Zoom user interface, is I can highlight some content, and that content can then be dragged out to create a new text component, which will allow you to do research, to combine them. And then you see here, I have my block of text, and I can use it as I wish, as I please. I can modify it, or what I can do, I can create a new card, which we call zone right now, and I can begin to kind of triage my thoughts and say, this go here, this go here, this go here, and kind of tidy my search. And just as I did earlier, I can live copy this zone, which is going to create a new instance of that zone. And if I move something, it's going to move here, which is very powerful when you begin to use several canvases, because here I am only doing it on one board. But what I can do is open the album, put my zone into the album. It's going to get transcluded there. Then I can do what we call an inception. I can change universe. I can switch to, for example, my files universe. This is something I wanted to show you after, but I can do it now. And then if I transclude it back here, and I can do it with the other content, and I modify that content in this new context, like I move the text, I'm going to align them on the right so you can see the difference, and I change the highlight color or the text color, I'm going to put it in red. And here I change the highlight color to purple, and oh, it was not the highlight color, I change it to, yeah, let's say green. And then I create a reference to the universe I was in earlier, which was workspaces. I can create a reference by just drag and dropping the little grip on the right. When I hit an inception, I'm going to get beam back. I can center. And if we look at the zone, you see that the content was updated and the text was updated as well. So you can imagine how Kosmik can help you create what we call visual wikis. Notion is a very powerful wiki builder. ROM Research is a super powerful note-taking app for network thoughts. Kosmik, we hope, will become the most powerful visual wiki builder. And we think that it can really replace your desktop because you can host, as I was showing you earlier, files. Here I have a Word file that I can just scroll and use.
Okay, Paul. Yeah. You're going high-speed French on me here. Well, let's pause for a second.
All right.
Really good. No, it's an excellent high-speed demo, and it's always awesome when demos just work as well. So I'm gonna pause and ask a couple of questions. Yeah. Can you open your sidebar there for me?
Yeah. So the side panel.
Yeah. So and just to get some semantics down, so you're calling all of these spaces, you're calling universes.
Yeah.
So universes are essentially each a canvas. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. And then so while they might have, does it come blank, or do you preload with things like I see workspaces, files, and videos? Are those some defaults that you come with out of the box?
So currently, when you download the app and you use it, it's blank, which is not good. So we are going to add templates and pre-made universes where you would have some example files and videos. A quick word on that, we call them universes because they are also Kosmik objects. So in Kosmik, everything is a Kosmik object. Your user account is a Kosmik object with an edge towards all your canvases. Your canvases, universes, are linked to all the objects they contain. So it's very powerful because in the future, what we are going to be able to do is transclude a profile with all the canvas it contains inside another canvases. So you can imagine what it would allow you to do in a collaboration setting or for digital garden discoveries. So this is why we call them universes, because they are, in a sense, the same object that we use for anything else in Kosmik.
And I think, of course, there's also the nod to the interplanetary file system, IPFS,
yes,
plus Kosmik. So we end up using all of the space terminology for all of these things, right? Okay, so basically each of these things, each Kosmik object, that's the universal base object. And you've got these card metaphors and a few other things like that. So one is very specifically a PDF. can you maybe actually in files show us? So you've kind of done this as workspaces might be your kind of like jump bar to go to different workspaces.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then files or videos just ends up being, oh, you know, I'm not sure where I'm putting this yet. I'll just stick it in files, or I'll just stick it in videos. Yeah. And that there's some metaphors that people can think about.
Yeah, it's kind of like the home folder on macOS or Unix, where you have those kind of predefined folders. It allows you to have a sense of hierarchy, even if it's not a true hierarchy, because you can link anything to anything, and everything is stored. I don't know if it's a good word, but flat, and not, you know, it's a tree, but a flat tree. So it's very fast, and no object is superior to any other object. The only thing that matters is that the account is encrypted at the root level. So everything is encrypted end to end and on device.
Yeah, so very similar to some of the metaphors that we use at Fission, where every account has a Windows, has a web native file system and a single file root, right? So very similar. And we our default Drive app, whether it's Linux or Windows or Mac OS, has some default folders in it as well, right? So I think we went for a very traditional file hierarchy, appears to be a file hierarchy, because we're really targeting developers first who work a lot with files very directly. I think that's our joint challenge in general, is how do we go beyond the file metaphor, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and if you use Kosmik or Fission, or if you use Rome extensively, you have to adapt to so many new concepts that it's good to have kind of to know that you have a place where some things work like they used to on your traditional desktop computer.
Try and how many things do we have to reinvent or explain before people can understand something, kind of thing is always the challenge. And what is this little floating bug that you have there in the top right?
Oh, so what I'm showing you right now is the developer version of Kosmik. So if you click here, it's the debug panel.
Oh, okay, cool. And then the albums, can you just slowly show us where that albums metaphor was again?
Yeah, so just to explain to you very quickly, Kosmik, each canvas hosts objects. And so at the very beginning of the Kosmik code base, we didn't have copy and paste. So it wasn't possible to copy an object in a board and to paste it into another board. You had to find a way to switch it with another object, which finally gave us a very powerful feature. So currently the album is just this kind of little card, but it's not belonging to a canvas. It's belonging to your user account. So what you can do is you can put an object in the album and reuse it anywhere you want, which is kind of like you can live copy it as many times as you want through the album. And when you click on the object, you have a preview. It's kind of buggy because we are working on it right now. One of the things that really interests me with the album is that if you look at Kosmik, you can edit objects in currently 2 places. You can edit them on the canvas. You can edit them on the left side panel, where you have kind of a semi-full screen vision. But what we want to do is, let's say that I'm in the workspace canvas, and I want to edit or to look at a video that's in the video canvas, but I don't want to open it. If I have it in my album, I'm going to have the possibility to view it directly through the album. So we want to kind of make the album like a second embedded Kosmik app that you could, you know, use to compare file. And we want to make the panel resizable. We want to do a lot of stuff with that. We also think that the album could be the perfect companion app for the iPhone, because I don't think that a zooming user interface would make a ton of sense on a very small screen. But having your Kosmik objects, having your notes, having your PDF, having your videos in your pocket would be very useful. So we are thinking about that, because now that we have IPFS working on mobile and Bang on top of that, we can imagine very different interfaces on top of that. We could, for example, do a very linear text note-taking application.
It actually, so I think the word, for me, my feedback to you is that the word album doesn't help me in understanding it. To me, it feels like a clipboard.
It's more like that. Yeah, exactly.
And that, of course, leads me to again think about Dima's Promnesia and the concept of a browser extension as one more spot where you might want to send stuff into your Kosmik workspaces.
Yeah. So yeah, you're right. To kind of give you a sneak peek of what we are working on. So currently, the album is only useful to put an object in it and take it out to make live copies. But you outline the best feature, which is that for me, the most painful part of my day when I use a computer is that I never see my clipboard and I constantly copy something, forget to paste it, and copy something else on top of that, which erases the content, which is like mind-boggling because we have clipboard for 40 years. And so the album is going to work as three things. Your kind of favorite object board, which is what I just showed you, a clipboard history of everything you copy and pasted in Kosmik. And also, it's the place where you are going to be able to restore deleted objects. So it's going to allow you to see through the trash can in the subsequent updates. I think
awesome.
Someone may have raised the hand. I didn't see, I'm sorry.
Yep. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. A while back, you mentioned something about not being sure which universes by default you wanted to show a new user on launch.
Yeah.
I used to work at Mozilla, and when we worked there, we did a bunch of user research around people's concepts of different browsing modes and why they switch browsers. Like our intent was to discover why they stopped using Firefox and started using Chrome as a visceral thing, but we discovered lots more interesting things about how people use multiple browsers for different modes of working. Yeah. And the bedrock of that, at least from maybe a bit of a skewed North American perspective, was personal and work. And so if you were going to have universes as default to better explain to a human that's trying to decode all the jargon, as Boris mentioned, personal and work seem to have a lot of traction for us. But the other thing I was going to say is in terms of albums or clipboards or whatever, and that terminology, when you use something like clipboard, that's an English phrase that we kind of understand mutually within an Anglo-centric sphere, it may not translate very well, and you may end up using jargon from other languages that approximates the concept in that culture versus being a literal translation of clipboard into Thai or something like that, which will fail right away. And that was something that that larger open source projects really struggle with in terms of localization. And there's a lot of work that's done, especially in sort of legacy Linux desktop distributions, around localizing concepts as opposed to literal words. It's probably too much information to ingest to really find a summary of that, but there may be stuff out there in the open source world, like symposiums, probably in Europe, talking about that kind of thing, because Europe has a single, the EU has so many languages, so it's something that they've tackled in a much more visceral way than North America, where it's essentially Anglo-centric sphere.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, and it's definitely something that we are trying to address. Obviously, we choose to kind of skew, as you say, the perspective towards North America and American users, or North America in general, because very early on, and maybe because it's the land of Ted Nelson, we had users there, and so we choose to kind of we try to have an app that would be comprehensible anywhere in the world. And when you mean anywhere in the world, when you are in computer science, it usually means North America. But I completely agree with what you said, and that's definitely something we are working on, especially as a team that's French and based mainly in Paris. So yeah.
Totally understand. Yeah, I think that like the personas that pop out for me with this are probably the same things that pop out with Notion and Rome and things like that, but students. And so students is actually a pretty polyglot group internationally, but they do all tend to have some English. So you can get away with that for a while, I think. but
Yeah.
the number of South Asian students is enormous, and the number of Chinese mother tongue speaking students is enormous, and so those language groups and having a really well localized system may get a lot of traction.
Yeah. No, you're right, and definitely we saw an uptick in downloads. I think it was in Hong Kong, Malaysia, Taiwan, very early on.
Yep.
We hope that the fact that we are completely encrypted and decentralized will not make us an instant ban in some of in some country in Southeast Asia. That's obviously a concern, but we choose to make the app as private and secure as possible, and that's something we are going to stick to because we think that the future is to have private data, and that was also one of the main choices, one of the main reasons we choose IPFS, which is that you can really, users are in control of the network. And to be clear, currently, if you use Kosmik on a Mac and an iPad and you need to sync them, if you are very close physically, they are going to sync together without ever talking to a Kosmik server. But if you need to, for example, if you are, I don't know for which reason, but you have an iPad in America and a Mac in France, and you need to sync, we are going to spawn in the cloud what we call the butler. And we called it a butler because it's not a server. And the butler is going to replicate the data from one device to another, but already encrypted. And if you looked at the demo I did earlier, you may have seen that some objects took a while, like 1 to 2 seconds, to be created on the board. It's because when you create an object, we encrypt it first, and then we let the user use it. So it's automatically synced, already encrypted, and we made a lot of work on that to kind of see how we can sync already encrypted content. It was a very tough subject, but we made it. And so if you have more than 2 devices and you need to sync them and they are not physically close, we are going to spawn a butler. But what we hope to achieve in the coming years, because I know it's going to take a long time, is to allow you to say, for example, hey, I have an iMac, I have a desktop computer, it's always plugged into the main. I want to have my own butler. And we are going to allow you to download the butler or to maybe host it on a small Raspberry Pi that you have connected to your home network with a hard drive connected, and say, I want my data replicated here and nowhere else, and to allow you to unplug yourself from the Kosmik network. Because we want to be a software vendor and not someone that make money out of your data. So that's what
So my shorthand for this for Fission always is that we want to be a constellation provider, not a cloud provider.
Exactly, and I think it's very
so it fits with your space terminology, so we can stay on brand for you.
Exactly. I'm sorry, I don't want to kind of mispronounce names, but I think Giori or Giori, you put some things in the chat. So how do you find things? So as we developed everything in-house, we had no choice but to develop our own search engine, which we call Kosmik Search Engine, and we have the Kosmik Public Search Engine. What we did is we created an engine that's going to index the content of everything that's textual in Kosmik. So the names of the zone, the content of the text stickers, the content of a PDF if it was OCR, everything that's a text can be indexed. And when you search in Kosmik, you have a very classic panel that's not yet available because it's very tough to do, because we decentralized the search engine also. So to maintain the database, to maintain the index is a very tough job to do for us. And so when you type a word, it's going to highlight it everywhere it's present on the canvas, and it's going to highlight the other canvas where it's present. And we are working on a vision where you would have the objects from other universes pop into the search panel, and you would be able to transcribe them where you are directly. We also want to create a search sticker where you would be able to create a zone, put some search terms, and everything that corresponds to those terms in Kosmik would be aggregated there. And yes, the search is encrypted, everything's encrypted. That's why it's currently very slow, very unreliable, and not available in the production version, but we are working on it. How do we identify relevant context? That's very, very, very good question. Currently, we do not do that very well. But what we hope to achieve is to have as many metadata as possible to, for example, how large is the object, how many words there are before, after, is it a solo block or is it in a chain of blocks? Was it reused a lot of time? Was it modified? Was it branched? Was it published? Was it shared? So we are going to try and to have relevance, to kind of score the relevance based on all of that. And we are going to introduce a tagging mechanism. But we also want to do something good on the tagging front. So what we want to achieve is a visual tagging system. We are working a lot, and this was one of my main field of expertise when I was a student, on color theory and color-based filing system. Because as you know, as humans, we identify color immediately. We do not interpret it. This is kind of a shorthand towards the true theory, but this is kind of how it could work. So we hope to create a true color filing system in Kosmik that would allow you to search based on terms, colors, space, basically how you would search your key in your house. So it's still something that we are working on, but the context would be based on a lot of information, which would be very like, yeah, was it published, the size, how many times was it used, everything. And is it big in your zooming user interface? Like, is it a very big object, a very small one? And about Ted Nelson, yes, we are working on beam links and also on very classical visual link. I didn't show you that, but maybe I can share my screen very quickly. If you look at my objects in Kosmik, when I click on something, I have this little arrow that allows me to connect objects together. What's very nice is I can connect, for example, and it's still kind of buggy, which is why it disappears when I connect it. But I can connect a text to a sticky notes, to a zone, to an object inside a zone. And when I do that, and I'm going to zoom and maybe it's going to reappear, and I move, they are going to move together. And I can label the edges. I can change the pointers. And we are going to allow the users to use those graphical arrows and change them to morph them into wiki links where you would be able to jump between your instances. So that's kind of the work we are currently doing on visual links, which is one of our main area of focus right now.
Awesome. Other questions, comments? Oh, excuse me. I may sneeze at some point. We'll see. You've built this stuff. You mentioned passing that you're using Go IPFS,
yes.
And you cross-compiled that so that works on mobile as well. You built Bang. You've got some other bits and pieces. We talked about before that you're a small team, so you haven't had a chance to do anything in terms of sort of open source with this, but you might consider it in the future, which is great. And I think a lot of people in the IPFS space would be interested in just figuring out interop in different ways, right? We don't have to create the Butler concept 18 times. We need it once,
exactly.
and other things like that, right? So looking forward to as you guys get some more time to dig into that. And yes, disclosure, we've met with Paul and his CTO and talked about some of the stuff in the early days and want to connect him into some of the ecosystem. So Jeff, actually, that's something to bring up with Dietrich. Make sure that Paul and Dietrich are talking as well from Protocol.
Yeah, totally.
So what is you're funded, you're a startup. It's free now in the App Store. How are you thinking about this going forward? Who's kind of your target market that you're really pushing initially? Where do you hope to get to in the next little while?
Yeah, so I'm going to answer your question in several parts. There is the real kind of pragmatic business part, and there is the utopian part that we are kind of still trying to nurture. So we are a startup based in Paris. We consider that the start of the adventure was when we raised our first seed round. We are currently backed by many business angels, individuals, physical people from a lot of backgrounds. Some of them did finance, some of them were artists, some of them are in the tech industry, and we have one VC. But it's not a majority owner. And honestly, for us, it has been nothing but good news, because they were able to, you know, push us to do our best work, and they were able to help us solve some of the problems that we were clearly not thinking about, like how do you recruit, how do you become a true company, how do you protect your intellectual property, how do you expand to other countries, how do you do a lot of things that someone that has millions on their banking account can help you do. Currently, we know that we have we are much less smaller than other players in the field, like Chrome, Notion, Figma, almost anybody. We are 6 working full-time on Kosmik. We hope to get to 10 people by the end of the year, mainly developers, but I think like we are going to have maybe 7 developers, and the rest of the team is going to take a hand in support, sales, and anything else that we need to do. About the target market, and just to answer your question about interoperability, yes, we hope to be interoperable with several stuff. With people working on IPFS like Fission, that's something that we really want to do, or Dylan from Cortex that you may know. That's something that we very want to do. And we hope to integrate with other thinking tools like Rome, Notion, Muse, anybody that would have an API, which would mean that we would also offer in return an API. Our goal is obviously to make Bang at one point, we hope, at least part of it, open source. Why we haven't done it just yet is because Christophe was basically working alone on this project up until like 8 months ago, which was very tedious, very heavy, and also so he was alone, so we didn't want to open source it too soon, because obviously open sourcing brings a lot of focus and attention, which is good, but can also, you know, take a lot of time. We were also hesitant because the main implementation is in Swift, which means obviously Apple ecosystem, iOS, macOS, which means a lot of stuff. Like it's complicated to use, it's very restrictive. Apple is very not that nice with developers. They have great products. I love the Mac, I love the iPad, but the way Apple works with developers and their developer ecosystem and tools is not that good. And we kind of, not on a daily basis, but we have to work around a lot of stuff. So that was the other reason. Now that we have a TypeScript implementation, that we succeeded in cross-compiling Go Mobile IPFS, that we know where we are going, that we have diagrams, that we have documentation, we are going to really think about that. Because when we met with Fission, we are like, oh, yeah, you're right. We are duplicating some of the stuff, and it's obviously not the way we are going to succeed in decentralizing the web, because we are going up against a lot of people with way more money and means. So that's something we want to do. We've not done it yet. It may be an error. We had our reasons because
the road is long.
Yeah, and the database was really integrated with the UI. On the target market, we are obviously targeting creative intellectuals, researchers, students. That's our main focus. And I would say anybody that would like to use their iPad as a thinking tool and to build a second brain in another way than a very powerful markdown editor with backlinks, which is not a critic in any way, because I use Rome, I use Notion, I love their products. But I just think that we may need something more user-friendly, which I hope is Kosmik. And so our target market is people that would like to build a second brain, would like to use transclusion, would like to have all those nice features, but may think in a different ways. We have spoken with a lot of graphic artists that have said to us, you just created the best solution to host, share, and modify a portfolio. You may have solved our problems when we need to share a file with a client, because currently we create the file, we put it in a Dropbox or a WeTransfer, we share a link, and we have to put the context in the email, which is not that good. And we are not there when they open it. We don't know what they think. We have to get on the phone. It's tedious. With Kosmik, you can create a card, put the file, put a post-it note, put a text, put some ink from your iPad, publish that. The link is secret if you wanted to. Share that secret link, and your client will see your file, see your work, but with context, and you can update it in real time, and they will kind of get their mini private website with your work for them, which is very nice, and they can retrieve the file directly from that. So our target market currently is really people that may have used Evernote, Rome, Notion, or creative people. And how are we going to make money? We have several answers to that. We are going to have a pricing plan that we call the Pro plan, I think, on the App Store for people that want to host big files. Big files mean more than 1 gigabyte or maybe 5 gigabytes of data. We are currently trying to size that. It would be very low cost because we have very good data compression. As we are decentralized, the infrastructure does not cost a lot. So we are going to offer a pricing plan, I think, between $5 to $8, where you would get unlimited space and you would be able to put videos, heavy PDFs, and do practically whatever you want.
No, not unlimited. Never unlimited.
Maybe not unlimited, but in the enterprise space, we are going to offer a very classical per seat per month pricing, where you would pay like $10 a month if you want to use Kosmik to share a canvas or a team with more than 3 people or 4 people. We are still working on that, to be honest with you. And the utopian part is that we want to sell you the butler. So that's what we hope to do in a few years. We hope to allow you to download Kosmik, say, I love that software. And if you choose to, you can subscribe to kind of a backup or sync plan, which is what we are going to offer you in a few months. But if you'd like, maybe for €80, €50, you could buy a butler, which would be a nice box that you plug at home, and it's going to host your Kosmik data. We are also working on a pricing plan that would be, for me, very interesting, only for desktop computers. Let's say you have a 1 terabyte hard drive. You download Kosmik. You say to Kosmik, I want to allow you to use 100 gigabytes of my hard drive. Your user account is only 4 gigabytes at the moment. So you have 86 gigabytes that you kind of loan to Kosmik that you are not using. And we may, if you download the Butler plugin, say to you, if you let us use your device as a replication point, you get your subscription fee with a big discount. As you see, we have a lot of options. The more basic one that you are going to be able to subscribe through the App Store for an individual or through the website for a company.
Awesome. Lots of things going on there. I want to put some things in your brain. So we've thought of some of those things, and in fact, I think the meta model for sharing files probably needs a more generalized protocol. So we're doing some work with Filecoin, which kind of, you need a pretty beefy computer today. Chia Network just launched, which has this concept of where you're setting aside plots of space on your disk. So those are some things that we're looking at and watching. 2 ideas I had that I think is this meta collaborative layer. I think that in general, one of the things that we're thinking about at Fission is the terminology that's arising is personal data store. And that's coming in part from the Decentralized Identity Foundation. So, and we're involved in some of that where it's user-centric data storage. So I think we're going to start using that language a lot more, which doesn't mean that it's on your computer or backed up by us or whatever. It's just more a concept. The 2 things that I had in mind around this space, one was potentially doing an IPFS adapter for Nextcloud.
That's
right. So a lot of people are already paying for storage and for Nextcloud hosting, and they do have an extension model. So that may be interesting to look at. So we should talk about that. The other one is, other than hobbyist usage, I don't think it's realistic to have 8 Raspberry Pi powered boxes at home. I played this game once before, actually very early at Nortel, when we were thinking about customer premise equipment. There is an existing one. There's the Helm personal email server. I don't know what their integration or other things, but they would be another interesting spot potentially for a target market that's already using stuff to keep a personal data store. Right. And my pushback on unlimited is just, I think that we have to engage users in an understanding that keeping a team of 10 working on great software costs money, that storage is very, very cheap on the internet, but it still does cost money, and consumer grade, where you say things like unlimited, is, I think, just going to cause issues. I very much like your barrier on file size. That's one of the things we've been thinking about as well, of having a generous, freemium tier for your personal data store. But if you're wanting to store, I'm thinking even lower, files that are 500 megs or bigger. Right, just to have a very clear, like being like, lots of little text files that is the sort of like personal knowledge should essentially be free and unlimited because they take so little space. But if you're going to have a bunch of 500 meg, 2 gig video files, the bandwidth alone there ends up being the expensive part, right? Even with lots of peer-to-peer. So those are just some of the thoughts that I'm having on this. So I'm excited to basically encourage you to continue to have some of these discussions in public, so that we can just, bounce some of these ideas off of each other as a group. Because I think these are the exact sort of things that lots of people here are interested in. Dima currently has to download the entire internet onto his local machine from like 18 different services. So he doesn't want to have another endpoint where he just pushes it online so he can export it again.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Other questions, comments for Paul, Kosmik, etc.? Yeah, fantastic. I think so. It's live in the App Store right now.
Yes. Yes.
So if you're one of the privileged few with an iPad or a Mac, you can try it out. That's awesome. Yeah, Jury says progressive web app. When? I think your plan is actually going to be trying to cross compile Swift to JavaScript. Is that what you're going to do?
Yeah, so what we did is that, so we have 2 implementations, the Swift one, which is using extensively UIK, Swift UI, and anything that Apple kind of give us. And on the other end, we kind of coded the whole from back in TypeScript, which is kind of a great exercise. So the PWA will be ready when we launch the public release, which is the one where you will be able to publish your Kosmik object in late May. It will launch probably without edition capabilities at first, and then we are going to gradually add them over the course of a few months. So you can expect to have, I think, an almost full-featured one before the end of the year, if I'm optimistic, even before the end of the summer.
Fantastic. Awesome. We'll, in the follow-up notes and everything else like that, we'll include links to all of the App Store and so on, and I'll make sure to tweet it now on the thread that I have on the Fission account. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining, and thank you so much, Paul. We'll give a round of jazz hands.
Thank you. It was very good, and it's always a pleasure. And if anybody has any questions or inquiries about Kosmik, I'd be very happy to, or criticism or ideas, I'd be very happy to talk with you more extensively. And thank you, Boris and Brooklyn, for having me. It was very nice.